The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on August 3rd, 2021.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines and Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. I'm your host, Pamela Timpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to talk about economic development, climate change, and infrastructure partnerships, Maui County's comprehensive affordable housing plan, and meet the owner of Kula Crafts and Flowers. But first, we'd like to kick it off with Senator Gilbert Keith-Agaran. He grew up in Paia and Kahului and has cultivated a passion for Maui and the Valley Isle and its residents. Senator Agaron brings a wealth of experience from the practice of law and work in the county and state government, currently working at the state capitol as one of our senators. Senator Agaron is a graduate of Maui High School and has a BA in history from Yale College in New Haven, Connecticut. And he is a graduate of Boalt Hall School of Law at the University of California at Berkeley. Gil is also a partner in the Maui law firm of Takatani, Agaron, Jorgensen, and Wildman. Aloha and good morning, Senator Keith-Agaran. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're so excited to have you on today and to get your thoughts on economic development for Maui and really what can be done to help us at the state level.
Well, there's a lot of things that that we're trying to work on, and the difficulty for Maui, of course, is that we don't have the same type of resources and existing businesses that some of the other islands have. For example, we don't have very much of a military presence here.
Right.
We have a little bit of military investment, but for the most part, we have the visitor industry, businesses that depend on the visitor industry, and then we have small businesses that cater to the resident population. I think that a lot of people talk about agriculture, but there's a lot of challenges for agriculture that we're going to be looking at doing a lot more work on in the next couple of years. The Ways and Means Committee, of which I'm a member, has been visiting all the neighbor islands to look at what can be done and what is being done. And one of the focuses has been to look at agriculture and to look at what kind of value-added products can be developed and provided in connection with agriculture. All of the neighbor islands have a little bit of a disadvantage because the largest market for agricultural products, of course, is on Oahu.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of our products have to be shipped to Oahu. So we're focusing on what can be done at the harbors as well, and looking at what can be done to look at the structure of Young Brothers and the airlines in terms of getting the products to market as well.
That's spectacular.
The other thing that we're looking at, of course, is going to be education, and really what kind of classes and courses can be provided at UH Maui College to help train the kind of workforce that we're looking for in the island.
Uh-huh.
For example, I think UH Maui College is looking at expanding the nursing program. Right now, all the graduates of the nursing program are being hired locally, and especially I think the hospital now is beginning to hire almost all the graduates from the nursing program and taking on the training themselves. I think in the old way of doing it was to have the nurses go and get training in the private sector, whether on the Maui or on Oahu, and hopefully come back and be hired. So the hospital at that time was relying on a lot of traveling nurses. The other area kind of related is that they're relying on a lot of traveling medical technicians as well. So we're looking at whether the University of Hawaii Maui College can partner with Keith-Agaran and some of the existing programs to start doing some of that training locally, so that local residents can live here and get the training and then take on the job that right now are being filled by traveling medical technicians.
That's excellent. You're coming in a little in and out. I know you're having to move around this morning while you're on on the show with us this morning. So we're really grateful to have you here and have that information. So you mentioned a group that you're a part of that's looking at economic diversity, and we couldn't hear that group. What was the name of that group?
Oh, I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, with Budget Committee in the Senate. And every year after the session, we do travel to visit the neighbor islands, take a look at projects that we funded and projects that we could fund in coming sessions. And we've just completed our trips to the Big Island and to Hawai'i.
Awesome.
And we'll be coming to Maui in September, I think.
Great. Well, and if we can help, please let us know. We often take legislators on tours to different manufacturing groups, so we're happy to help with that. And I love that you mentioned looking at how we can export products. Of course, here that's been a big thing that we've been working on for a number of years with the annual Made in Maui County Festival, looking at how we can leverage ag and create more value-added products here in Maui County. Of course, it is as you point out, the big issue always is we can make spectacular products. Sometimes they come at a higher cost because we're making it, in remote islands in the Pacific versus on the U.S. mainland. But people are willing to pay that cost. But then we also have that added cost of the shipping. So looking at ways to offset that would be such a tremendous help. I know...
Go
ahead.
Yeah, and I think we all realize that, and that's one of the reasons that we do have a task force right now that's looking at Young Brothers, which is basically the lifeline for a lot of our local businesses in getting their products to market.
Yes, that's fantastic. It's those kinds of partnerships that I think are going to be so instrumental in helping us move forward, and I appreciate, and I know you've been working hard on this. We knew that we were really dependent on one industry, and then COVID showed us exactly how dependent we were on our visitor industry. And so, I'm thrilled to hear that the Senate Ways and Means Committee is looking at how to, across the state, look at diversifying our state and recognizing the unique challenges of each island. I know you've also been very involved in addressing climate change. It's one of your top priorities. And, of course, we're concerned about sea level rise and a lot of different climate issues. What are some of the things that you'd like to see implemented in Maui and statewide to address climate change?
Well, one of the things that I think really should be done, in some ways the government needs to be an example. I think if we're talking about retreat from the shoreline, then we really need to take a look at what to do about our infrastructure, meaning we should take a close look at starting to move back some of our state highways. Mm-hmm. We really need to work on probably getting our wastewater plants away from the shoreline. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're watching closely what the federal government does. Supposedly, the infrastructure bill contains a tremendous amount of investment for water and for wastewater infrastructure. Right now, the way we build water and wastewater facilities is really based on the fees that the ratepayers pay. So all residents who get water from the county or use the wastewater system are paying into the system, and they have to pay for any improvements.
Right.
What the federal government has done in the past is provide low-interest loans, and then the counties would need to pay back those loans. And so we haven't used that money as much on Maui as on Oahu. Oahu is taking a lot of those low-interest loans. And in part, so we've relied more on paying, a better way to put it is we pay in cash, very limited use of bonds. Hopefully what the federal government was providing is grants where we need to provide a local match. And I think that's one of the things that the state can help the counties with is looking at where we can partner with the county to help provide the matches that may be required for the federal money that's being proposed. I think a lot of people don't realize that our wastewater system is not completely connected to all over the island. And there's still places on the island where we don't have sewer. And I think that's one of the things we need to look at. And also, with the import rules, we can't be just injecting our wastewater into the ocean. So we need to find ways to treat that water and reuse it, which will probably be better for the environment to begin with.
Right. I know. Were you able to come down to the new sewage plant in Kihei, the Vetiver experiment that they're doing down there? Did you get to see that?
No, I haven't. So I'd love to go down there and take a look at that.
Yeah, Vetiver is really an amazing plant. I've been familiar with it for about a decade, but I was thrilled to see the trial, and it's pretty exciting. So, on your trip in September, let us know if we can help. But it's a great trial to see, and I'll be interested to see the data coming out of that, because they're feeling it will, again, help prevent further injection wells if we can prove the concept. So that's kind of an exciting new trial that's happening on Maui. And
good.
Yeah. I also wanted to have you share some of your thoughts on infrastructure partnerships. I know that's something that you're working in where, again, you kind of touched on that, state, county, and federal level. So we've got the money. How can we, if we can get these grants, how do we expedite, creating the needed roadways, wastewater, and water systems, as well as the big talk that everybody's talking about these days in digital equity and just really helping us leverage economic development is broadband.
Yeah, well, one of the things I remember when I was working as in public works on Maui was that each of the council districts had a limited amount of money to repave their roads. Mm-hmm. I think some years back, I believe David Good in the Public Works Department actually leveraged federal money in order to rebuild actually the electoral roads in central Maui. I think that's the kind of model that we need to look at, is where we can leverage all the resources that we have. Historically, the state used to do a lot of water well exploration, help with the development of those wells, and then turn over those wells to the county. Uh-huh. Right now, I believe Representative Yamashita put in some money to look at doing exploratory well up country. If that's successful, then the county will have an additional well to use for domestic water use for drinking water up country. And we're looking at providing a well in the Punane area as well. So I think those are the kinds of things concrete things that we can do, which is look at investing in infrastructure that helps both the local community and using federal and state money in that way. The other thing we're looking at is whether we can help provide wastewater and roadway infrastructure in central Maui that will help move forward what some of the affordable housing projects the mayor is advocating for in the Waikapu and Wailuku area. Uh-huh. If we can do that, that'll help reduce the amount of infrastructure investments that the developer has to put in, and hopefully that'll keep price for those homes in an affordable range, not just for those that qualify for workforce housing, but for those who fall within the gap groups. That, to me, I grew up in Kahului. My parents bought their house for between $25,000 and $30,000.
Wow!
And so I'm amazed that you've got homes selling near where they live for over $800,000 to $900,000. I can't imagine that if you sold your home, where would you go? Or what would you buy? Where would you live? I don't think that's something that's sustainable, and we really need to find a way to bring the price down to a range that's affordable for the working people here.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, and the good news is that we're going to be talking about that next. Affordable housing and rentals has been a long-standing top priority for the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and we've gotten to participate in 2 housing forums presented to the community, and continuing to work in this area. And after you this morning, we have Jeff Gilbreth of Hawaii Community Assets, who presented the new housing plan to the county council. So if you have a chance, it would be great to listen in. He's going to talk a little bit about what they're planning. But I love hearing that the state is looking at helping to expand the infrastructure, because that is, as you point out, it's a top issue that always comes up when we're looking at the development of affordable housing and rentals. And as we talked to in the past, the Department of Housing and Human Concerns, many projects were simply held up by just key pieces of infrastructure that the developer couldn't afford to pay for. And so some of these things were, added to the developer's plan when they were seeking approval, and it just never penciled out. So to know that the state's also looking at that and how to leverage all of the partnerships, local money, county, state, federal funds, how we can bring this all together is going to be a tremendous help in keeping things more affordable. So I'm excited to hear about that. What are some of the other things that are top of mind for you moving into the coming session?
Well, I think that immediately, obviously, with the start of school next week, I think we're all sort of watching closely that we can reopen the schools safely, especially because we all know that a lot of parents are planning right now what they're going to be doing next week, and if they have to make changes on, right away, if for some reason we have to close down again, I understand what kind of hardship that can bring to parents and families who, might have been thinking about going back to work as well. So I think schools are kind of top of mind and even before the next session starts, we're anticipating that if the infrastructure bill passes, we're looking at whether we need to come back earlier to help the governor direct where the money goes. But next year, I think we are probably going to be looking at it's a supplemental budget year, so we're probably looking at making adjustments to some of the decisions in the budget that we made this year, especially in terms of where the state is putting our CRT money.
Oh, we're losing you just a little bit. We heard you were going to come back to help the governor look at where the money should go, and then it kind of faded out.
Yeah, I think we're looking at whether or not there'll be a need for a special session.
Okay.
Because he already had some concerns about where the last tranche of federal money was supposed to go. Because I think the state got the guidance from the federal government on the use of that money after we ended the session.
Okay.
So there were a number of appropriations that could not be used the way that we originally had set it up. And with the additional federal money that might be coming, we're looking at, depending on the timing, whether or not we need to come back before next January to help have that money appropriated and directed to the right places.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I know there was a lot of talk about this federal money coming down and more, that more would be coming, and all of a sudden it's sort of like we stopped hearing about it. So I appreciate that update, that really it's the money is coming in, but we're waiting for guidance. And so that's important to know, because a lot of people have been asking lately, what are you hearing about that? And I said, I'm not hearing much of anything. So that's very helpful to know. Well, Gil, we deeply appreciate having you on the show this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us these updates. We love having you represent us as our senator at the state legislature, and I really appreciate all of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time that you put into this and for the work that the Chamber has been doing to try to get our economy back going locally.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. We're proud every day to assist our businesses in this community who are working so hard to get back up and running and keeping people employed. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and if we can help when you come in September, please don't hesitate to give us a call.
Well, we'll keep that in mind as we continue the planning for that trip. Thanks.
You bet. Thank you, Gil. Aloha, and have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. All right. I want to take a quick commercial break so you can hear from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. All right, we're back, and I wanted to introduce Jeff Gilbreth, Executive Director of Hawaiian Community Assets and Hawaii Community Lending. He is involved in several organizations and is experienced in nonprofit administration, board governance, affordable housing, community lending, and financial literacy. Good morning, and welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hi, Pam. Good to be with you.
Oh, we're so glad to have you on once again. And we're excited that we saw your presentation to the County Council on the comprehensive affordable housing plan that your organization presented on July 19th. We're thrilled that that has been done and that you folks even expanded the scope of work to give us even more than plan. Can you tell our listening audience a little bit about the purpose of the plan?
Sure. So the County Council put out an RFP, a request for proposal, back in November of 2020, and it was really to develop a plan to build 5,000 homes that are affordable for households under 120% area median income in Maui County. And so a real focus on local families, local residents. How do we get families into rentals and purchase opportunities that meet their incomes? And so that's what we were tasked with, and we worked over the last 9 months, 10 months to develop that plan, and it is now in the hands of the County Council.
You know, I was really surprised because when you folks gave the presentation, you had a wealth of experts who were there to answer every possible question. How many different experts did you engage in putting? I know you also did broad community meetings, but how many different technical experts did you have in creating this plan?
Yeah, we knew, Pam, we couldn't do it alone, and we knew that the best plan would come from those individuals who are experienced in development, that have done affordable housing, that they know the barriers and the opportunities. And so we engage roughly 20 different subject matter experts across 6 organizations. That included planners, engineers, financiers of affordable housing development experts, and community engagement folks. And so represented from PBR, Hawaii and Associates, Austin Tsutsumi and Associates, which are probably some names that folks will recognize.
Yes.
Hawaii Appleseed were our policy analysts, so these were folks from that local nonprofit. Rural Community Assistance Corporation was critical. They are an intermediary that serves the community development needs of the 13 states in the western region of the U.S., Hawaii included. And then, of course, our HCA team. And so, yeah, it was was a coming together of a lot of different subject matter experts and really a spectrum of thought on affordable housing that we pulled together and came forward with some consensus items.
You know, that was very impressive to me because we knew that you folks were working on it, and I think, like you say, it's such a huge issue. So to come together and say, okay, we can't do it alone, and then to bring together such a phenomenal team with tremendous experience, and like you said, names that we recognize. So,
right.
You know, as leaders in the industry, I mean, leaders who've been very involved in doing these kinds of projects, I just really thought that was phenomenal. So,
well, and Pam too, just real quick, I wouldn't discount all of the amazing feedback from community, from folks who are
absolutely,
weren't part of our team but have this similar type of expertise. This was a result of what community wanted, and it's kind of community's best foot forward on affordable housing. So I want to make sure I mahalo everybody who participated, in the Maui County residents that were just phenomenal in bringing forward some of these solutions.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, it's true, and I know you reached out, and you had quite a bit of community participation. And again, like you said, and I remember you saying this when you presented the plan to the county council, that this plan builds on all the work that had been done previously, and all of the community and council and administration's investments and efforts to move forward over many years. You folks were building off of that and leveraging us forward, which was really tremendous. Tell us, what were some of the key things as you gathered all of this information? Tell us some of the key things that you felt were really pertinent to share about the affordable housing needs for Maui County.
Yeah, I think it's critical to know that the current affordable housing system is producing the type and price of homes that it has been set up to do. So it is fulfilling its mission, right?
Yes.
What we saw as we dug into the data was that you've got kind of two parts of the income population that are being met right now with the current affordable housing system, and that's 50 to 60% area median income. Uh-huh. You're seeing a lot of rentals come through the low-income housing tax credit program. That's a program that basically incentivizes the building of these affordable units at 50 to 60% AMI. And then you have, with the current workforce housing ordinance, you have a lot of home ownership units that are coming in over 100% area median income. And again, it's how it's incentivized or not incentivized that we see those two populations really having the majority of units built for. Where we don't see our communities getting the access are those who are under 50% area median income, the rentals, and rental and purchase opportunities from 61% to 100% area median income. So it was really identifying that our current system is not prioritizing and doesn't have the type of incentives necessary to reach these targeted populations. It does require investments, public dollars, private dollars to get into community, help subsidize those units. It costs money to develop, right? Right. And we can't just mandate it. But if we can reset the incentive structure so that we're providing $175,000 per unit for rentals, we can get, in terms of subsidy, we can get those units down to a point where families at 30% area median income could rent all day long. And on the flip side, we could do $150,000 deferred payment mortgages to help make sure those between 61 and 100% AMI can purchase. It can become part of the property tax structure and help those funds come in for public services and public infrastructure. And so that was probably the most significant that we saw, was that there is demand at these other income levels, and we need to figure out a strategy to incentivize the building of this, because no matter how we twist it, development costs money.
Right.
And we need to figure out the way to incentivize that to the developers and not just make it a blanket mandate.
Right. I was really surprised when you first said that, when you were presenting the plan and you said, well, the system is working exactly as it was planned to do. And it immediately in my mind, I connected to, because there's so much discussion about the visitor industry right now. And it's like, yeah, we exceeded the plan in the visitor industry, right? Sooner than we ever expected, but the plan worked, right? And then you said sort of the same thing on the housing side, like, the challenge is there's gaps in the plan, but the plan as it's currently moving forward did exactly what it was designed to do. And that was really an interesting aha moment. And you start thinking, well, there you go. I mean, we've been stuck for so long, and that was the first time I'd ever heard anybody say that.
Yeah, and I think what's powerful, Pam, is that as we were looking at ways to update this system, right, to make it meet the demand and the need as it is right now for Maui County residents, hearing from local communities about what they thought were important for them as families to become renters or buyers, or for their employees or what have you. A lot of the recommendations you see go forward were voiced by community, and then we went back and did research and analyzed what could be workable, what could we do. And we also looked at 10 other high-cost communities that had similar populations, sales prices, what have you, and in order to determine how do we now remake this system so it meets the needs now that we have now.
Right.
And the most critical thing is that we drive decision-making by data.
Yes.
And the Hawaii Housing Planning Study is the best tool that we have in the state of Hawaii to define demand for Maui County residents every 5 years.
Right.
And so we're really leaning into this idea with the plan that you remake the system, the affordable housing system, by understanding collectively what are the demand at the different income levels, and then targeting those investments to reach those levels. And this is something community brought up. This is what other communities have done. And so I think if we can come together around those shared data points, that's a critical way for us to make sure that decision-making happens and decisions that are made stay made.
Yeah, I think that is extremely important. And, I love that you were building into the system. Again, we're revamping the system. Here's some new avenues. We're missing some of the current marks in this current plan. Here's how we get there, but also reminding us that it's a system, and we don't want to implement it this year and the next year see a council change or what have you, and then or changes in the department, for example, and then lose some of that momentum and say, okay, well, we don't need to continue to invest in updating the studies, because the studies are really critical to where we're going. Yeah, and I thought you highlighted that extremely well. So now we have this great plan, and I know a lot of people, we knew this was going to cost quite a bit of money to achieve 5,000 homes. And of course, you're also addressing the issue of rentals. So, we knew that there was going to be a price tag with this. We also know that, there's a lot of things that can be done at different levels to help expedite moving forward. So now, what are the next steps in implementing this plan? Or what do you foresee as going to be the council's process in reviewing the plan and then looking at how we implement the plan?
So the council has been, I've been really impressed with the Affordable Housing Committee Chair, Gabe Johnson. And I think he recognizes the severity of the issue and the need to meet that where we're at this point in time. And so he's been holding Affordable Housing Committee meetings. We did a follow-up to our first presentation pretty quickly thereafter.
Great.
And he's working behind the scenes with the council to be able to find where are the points that they agree and that they can move forward on, right? And for the points that they don't agree on, well, maybe we talk about that later. Maybe that's a negotiation down the road, right? And I think similarly what has to happen is, the administration has to have time to digest this plan, determine what it means for their departments. We had conversations with them throughout this process, but it's talking about a significant amount of change, and these folks who are inside the department need the opportunity to be able to assess that. And similarly, the mayor being able to find where are the consensus items that can go forward. And I think the council and the administration then have to come together and say, okay, publicly, this is what we support, and we're going to start moving on these items now. The things that I think, Pam, that are most critical, it's really three key things. The first is we have been operating from a mindset of scarcity of resources for far too long. And when we do that, when we say, well, we don't have enough resources, there's not enough there, there's not enough to get this done, it's easy to foment competition, division even, right, within all of our sectors. But when we can put an abundance of resource into the system, that changes the game. It now becomes a Ka-Koa thing. It becomes an opportunity for everyone to get in the game and roll up their sleeves. And so the first thing that we see is critically important is the council needs to increase the annual revenue into the Affordable Housing Fund, and to do so in a way that they can sell bonds, both taxable and non-taxable bonds, for affordable housing. So we can make the critical investments that really we haven't made over the last 40 years because we haven't had the resources to do so.
Right.
But to make those investments, in particular in off-site infrastructure, community serving infrastructure, and then the second being obviously getting housing supports to local renters and families so it's more affordable for them. The second thing I would say, and it's probably just as critical, is we need to have an affordable housing coordinator in the mayor's cabinet. I think this person needs to be able to have expertise in affordable housing, but also be able to work across departments and outside of the administration to be able to make sure everybody's kind of pulling together. A critical role they'll play is getting requests for proposals out so that they can contract for third-party expertise on anything that the county doesn't have the capacity to deliver, to make sure those partnerships are sewed up and we're moving forward. And then the third, I would say, is we identified 5 parcels of county land that we believe could have 1,300 units of rental and for sale homes on them. And so we need to start planning, do the planning work for those, start to move forward on getting those into development. So in the next 5 years, you have 1,300 additional units constructed on county-owned land where we can be more aggressive in terms of targeting our affordability because, you know, the equation of the land is already taken care of, that it's in the hands of the county.
Right.
And so those are really the 3 areas where we think we got to move fairly quick with the council and the administration. And I think by prioritizing those, it also brings all of the stakeholders together. I don't think there's anything in there in those 3 points that anybody would be diametrically opposed to. But I think the important thing is we need to kind of shift the paradigm and say now we have an abundance of resources. We've got coordination that can help streamline the process, internal and external, and we've got the land to be able to start doing some of these innovative projects and get to affordability in a way that it meets the needs of the community.
I think that was perfectly said, to be honest with you. When you first brought up the concept, that we've been looking at this from the standpoint of scarcity of resources, and then you're right. I mean, when you have that mentality, it does drive divisions, and it sort of blocks thinking, right? It's like, okay, we just don't have it, and so people forget to think, well, how could we get it? It sort of stops the thinking there. Okay, that's just too hard, or we don't have what we need, instead of thinking, how do we get it? And you
can't really argue against that, right, Pam? That's a tough one. It kind of stops the conversation.
Yeah, but what you helped do was clear that roadblock with this plan. You said, well, wait a minute, there are things that we can do, but the first thing is we have to get over that mindset And that's really important. And then I really like the idea of the coordinator, again, working with different departments and within the departments, and really somebody who is like the log jammer, right? We just keep moving forward. How do we just, what's missing here? What's missing there? So a strong project management.
They create certainty for the development community, right? I mean, it'd be so critical, right? And I think with that kind of certainty, the development community can do so much more. Right? But they need that certainty.
Yeah, and it takes certainty, and a lot of people don't recognize that in development it really does take certainty. There's a lot of risk in development, and a lot of money just even to bring projects to the table to even be reviewed. So it's huge upfront investment, not to mention the land holding costs. So there's a lot of things that people don't understand, but one of the key things to understand is that when it comes to development, the sooner you get the development moving and get things built, the more money you'll save. The longer the process takes, the more expensive it's going to be. And now we're watching, we haven't made the needed investments for all of these years, and of course now building supplies are going up tremendously.
I know.
And that delay is going to cost us all more. So, time is now really of the essence. But, we don't want to say, okay, well, that's a problem, so we've got to stall. How are we going to do this? We need to keep that mindset that it's possible, and we just need to keep looking for the right avenue. So, Jeff, I really want to thank you and your team at Hawaiian Community Assets for the tremendous plan that you put forward, all of the great resources you brought together, and, of course, the community at large, for all of those who participated and participated in so many different ways, whether it was coming to meetings or being affordable housing and rentals champions for decades, or ringing in on the plan that you presented, or the people who are going to continue to ring in. Yeah. We want the community involved. So we just really want to thank you for all that you're doing. We're here to help. Our Affordable Housing and Rentals Committee at the Chamber is going to be meeting later this week to start reviewing the plan and ourselves and coming up with things that we feel are really important as well. So we appreciate having you on the show today and continue to look forward to seeing the implementation of this great plan.
Thanks, Pam. Really appreciate the time, and again, big mahalo to the community for coming out and getting engaged. It's exciting, so let's keep it going.
Absolutely, let's keep it going. Well, you have a beautiful Maui day.
All right, you too, Pam.
Thanks, Jeff. Aloha.
Hey, aloha.
I wanted to also just take a quick moment to let you know that this show is sponsored by Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. Sherry is a renowned watercolor artist who offers an array of bright and beautiful art and gifts for every occasion. She also has some spectacular art classes as well. Visit her and her amazing team in the historic Makawao Town Gallery. Next, we'd like to welcome John Emerson of Kula Crafts and Flowers. He is the business owner of that company and has been very involved in a wide variety of activities, including the Made in Maui County Festival. Good morning, and aloha, John.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about Kula Crafts and Flowers and how you got started.
Well, Kula Crafts and Flowers is actually, yes, I do own it, but my wife is the boss, so she's the one who runs it. She does a lot of the work. But Kula Crafts started quite a while ago. I've always enjoyed working with wood and pretty much self-taught myself. And I've worked I used to work in a lumber yard in Laguna Beach, California, and They had a mill in there where I kind of learned how to do some woodworking and what have you. So we started that business when we retired. We sold our race timing business many years ago and went into retirement. And since we had a lot of time on our hands, we figured, well, we just need to keep busy. So we have a nursery out here. We grow flowers, and then at the same time, I started doing woodworking and completing woodworking projects. So after a couple of years, and all the work that I had been making and finishing, kind of started to pile up a little bit. So my friends and my family, my girls, and our kids here, they started getting a lot of Christmas presents and impromptu gifts. And pretty soon I said, I've got to do something with this stuff, because I didn't want to stop making things, because it just kept me busy, and I enjoyed it. So we signed up with the Made in Maui show, which was just incredible. The outpouring from all the people and the support that I got from those people was amazing. And I figured, well, it's the only way to keep making things and to keep is to start selling the things. So that's how I got started with the Made in Maui show. I've always wanted a wood bowl when I was, I don't know, throughout the years, and wood box. And I go to some of the stores here and then galleries, and they're just really alive. They're a lot of money. These bowls are pretty expensive. So when I started making the bowls, I decided, well, I wanted other people to enjoy and be able to afford it. So that's how. So we try and keep our prices low, and I work with wood that I have, found pretty much, or given to me by friends. So that's how we kind of got started.
Wow, that's tremendous. And really, you have some beautiful wood projects. I mean, they are the artwork in that is tremendous. And I love that you are finding ways to give everybody these treasures at a price they can afford. So how long does it take you to make some of these products? And you must have a lot of equipment. You've got a lot of lathes, or tell us about the equipment that you've got.
Okay. I do. I have pretty much of a full wood shop that I've created. And so I have a lathe and band saws and table saws and so on and so forth. And the fun part about it is that 100% of the wood comes from Maui. I'd say 100%, 99.9% or something like that. But a lot of the wood does come from Maui. I don't get it from anywhere else. And started. I really enjoy starting with a log. Just a cut piece of wood or something. That somebody would give me. And we have our friends and relatives and other people that have wood in their yard, or tree trimmers that cut trees down or something, and they are arborists, and they call me up and say, "Hey, John, I got some wood. Do you want it? You want this Norfolk pine or something?" And of course, I take that, because that's if you have to buy the wood, that's expensive, and that's what can drive up the cost of things is paying for wood. So when I'm getting it from for free and not costing anything, that helps me keep the prices down pretty much. And so I also have an Alaskan chainsaw mill, and I can cut and slab wood with that. It's a large chainsaw, so it's my brother-in-laws will call me up and say, "Hey, we're going to take down this monkey pod tree. Do you want it?" It's like, "Yeah, I'll take it." I go over there and I take my time and cut it out and just be able to do some fun things with this wood. And as I say, keep the prices down as we go. So my workshop is at home, so it's fun. I get up in the morning and I can take care of some work, and then I go down to the shop, and pretty much I stay there all day long.
Where's home? What part of the island is home at?
We live up in Kula.
Okay.
So
that explains. Yes, Kula Crafts and Flowers. Okay.
Yeah. That's we didn't know really what else to call it. We were just trying to identify the things that we do. So Kula Crafts and flowers, because we grow flowers and sell those at the market. So but it does keeps us busy, which is a good thing.
That is a good thing. So tell us a little bit about the types of products that you have on hand now. What you've got? Do you have bowls? What other types of products do you frequently do?
I make bowls. So I've got bowls. Usually it's pretty much mango and koa. Not a lot of koa, but I do have some koa. Koa is hard to find. There's a lot of it out there, but a lot of the koa sits on private land, and of course, people don't want to get rid of their koa trees. And we've got koa trees growing on our property up here, but it's not going to be something I'm going to be cutting down anytime soon unless something happens. But I work with mango, and koa and avocado, camphor. I have a lot of camphor. And again, these are just pieces of wood that people has given us. Uh-huh. And so I made boxes, just keepsake boxes that people, put special things in. I have a lot of cutting boards because if I have cut off pieces or something, I'll make a cutting board, and then if I have strips, I can put them all together and have them a multi-wood kind of cutting boards that I have. I think just in my shop, I think I've got 30 cutting boards in there that are not even in our online to sell, but I don't have any place really to put those, so I just kind of keep them down there in the shop. And I don't do a lot of custom work because I don't know, I would like to be able to be in control of my own time, and sometimes if someone asks to do something, I may be in the middle of another project or something that I'm trying to make.
Sure.
So I don't have time to really work on custom projects. But I try. I try and do those things.
Oh, that's
do
awesome.
Something,
So we've got about a minute left. Tell us where people, you mentioned online, so tell us where people can find your products. And is it just online, or can they come to the house? We don't, right now, because of the COVID, we don't have really people coming to the house. We do sell our flowers, and we sell some things, very little of the crafts, down at the Kula Farmers Market on Saturdays. And we're there every other Saturday because of our flowers and things. Otherwise, you can go to kulacrafts.square.site. And my wife has created a online store there, and she does a lot of resin art, so you're going to see a lot of resin art ocean scenes combined with some of my wood and things in there. So awesome. Okay, well, I'm so sorry, John, that's all the time we had, but thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your time, Ben.
It's our pleasure. We'll have you on again. Well, again, it goes fast every week. That's all the time we have for today's Business Matters program, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines and Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. I'm Pamela Tumba, president of Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.